What another exciting opportunity to be before you all. Today is about to be another good day as we come to the close of this week. I'm super excited about all of the feedback. One of the things that really touched my heart was someone saying, like, thank you for your obedience. And I've always thanked people for their obedience. But I guess now those roles are reversed. And so today we're really thinking through and diving into, are you dreaming high enough? Right. And when I think about, are you dreaming high enough? It also revolves around whether or not you are ready to live an uncommon life. And so we walked into May saying, may our lives never be the same. But now today we're going to take it a step higher and we're going to say, I am ready to live an uncommon life. And if you're ready to live an uncommon life, that means you are in a place where you are ready to do some uncommon things, transform into uncommon thinking, and have some uncommon relationships. When I think about all of the things that it takes to really get to a place of dreaming higher, the one thing that I'm very, very, very clear on is you have to abandon what you knew is normal. And if I'm honest, y'all, it is a constant thing that you have to do if you want to live in an uncommon way. So, for instance, like my whole life has been abandoning my past. I know that's a lot, right? Like you literally have to abandon who you once were to become the newer version of you because there is a higher dream for you. And we oftentimes hear about how exposure increases your expectation, right? And so every time I get exposed to something different, I say to myself, I can't settle here. And so, as I'm saying to myself, I can't settle here, then I have to be willing to do the things to dream high enough. And so, I want you to take an idea that you may have in your heart, that you may have in your mind. I want you to write it down today, and I actually want you to rip it up. Yup, I want you to rip it up. The reason why I want you to rip it up, because I guarantee you it's not high enough. And then I want you throughout the week to say, what's a higher version of this dream? What is a higher version of this dream? Because we think sometimes lower of ourselves or lower of what could happen. And now we're saying that we're ready to live an uncommon life. And I think it's a clarion call on, what is it, the third day of May, for us to return back to that childlike guts. I don't know about y'all, but like, do you remember as a child when like you were not scared to do anything? You'd be like, "Oh, I'll try it. Oh, I'll do it. Oh, that's nothing. I'll try it." And I think in order for us to really dream higher and go after everything and really have this uncommon life, it involves us going back to that version of ourselves. And when I say going back, I mean going back to being fearless because we get tied up in the results rather than going after the highest version of ourselves or rather than going after that uncommon thing. And back then, here was the one rule that we lived by. Safety is Safety was the enemy of our future. Ooh. Safety was the enemy of our fun. Safety was the enemy of our future and safety was the enemy of our fun. And so because we knew that safety kept us from our future, safety kept us from our fun, we decided that we could do anything. And like your parent would say, like, she crazy, or he doing this is happening. But in reality, at that point, you were ready to dream higher in life. And you at that point had built up the stamina to dream higher. But now, after circumstances have happened, after people have talked you into certain things, you have lowered that fearlessness, right? And it's now time for that fearlessness to rise to the top again. I want somebody to type in the chat, an uncommon life is on the way. An uncommon life is on the way. And so as you dream higher, remember, we have to be willing to let go of the reality and chase uncommon things. So that means we have to be in a place where we're chasing an assignment, where we're chasing impact, and we're chasing a return on investment. I'm going to say that again. We're chasing assignment, impact, and return on investment. That's what dreaming higher really does for us. Because when you are assignment based, you can better let go of fear and turn back to those childlike guts. When I think about the assignment for this week, y'all, the allergies are on fire. Like right now, like I probably don't even sound the same. However, I'm assignment based, right? And so I'm going for higher. And because of that, there is something happening in me, something happening in my business, and something happening in the people that will listen to this, right? Because that goes into the next piece, which is impact. And sometimes when we dream high enough, we get so focused on the results, right? And wanting this certain result. But if we focus on having the level of impact that we're designed for at that moment, we can let go of the results and then act with that childlike guts, with those childlike guts. And then the last thing is we have to be able to really lean into the return on investment. Meaning, if we can let go of the idea of results, we will be more apt to chase the higher version, to chase the uncommon thing, because all we want is a return on an investment. And sometimes the return on the investment is something with you. Anybody who is really close to me will tell you about my $5,000 investment in 2021. I made a $5,000 investment and I joined this group, and I am still, what are we like almost 3 or 4 years later? I still am not reaping the fullness of that investment. It was an investment of my time because I was working this crazy job at the moment. It was an investment of my money, and it was an investment in my energy. But here is the thing. I was willing to abandon what I knew to create an uncommon new normal. I was willing to abandon what I knew to create an uncommon new normal. And I had to be willing to kind of navigate the dance of dealing with discouragement. Because when you go and you charter new territory, you have to be ready for some sort of isolation. And I know we don't even like that word. I don't even like it, to be honest. I don't like isolation in that way. Like, but I am an introvert at heart. So like I can be alone and recharge and have all my time. But like those seasons where you get removed from so much stuff, it just be like, man, and you really sit. But that's where you start to get the return on your investment. And that's where you start to build the grounds, the foundation for your uncommon life. Then the next thing, you have to be willing to be misunderstood. Most people settle for safe. And because most people settle for safe, they don't understand people who do uncommon things. They don't understand people who dream higher. They don't understand people who are willing to say that this ain't good enough for me. Y'all know that's my favorite word, ain't. Right? This ain't good enough for me. And so, since this is not good enough for me, I am willing to be misunderstood. You may not ever understand why I did X, Y, and Z, but it's not for you to understand because you don't want an uncommon life. I do. I wholeheartedly believe I have a jet life. Like the friends that will be there. Because when you go higher, people start to fall off. For the friends that'll be there, let's get the jet. Where we going? Where are we going? Right. And then the last piece is when you're going higher and you're going after this uncommon life, it comes with judgment and naysayers. And you have to be willing to be, for a lack of better words, forward tough in order to navigate that season of you becoming the higher and best version of yourself. And so remember, if you're just jumping in, you're saying in the chat, an uncommon life is on the way. because we understand in this community that may our lives never be the same. So after May, life is not going to be the same. And I see Marcy and Annetta talking about coming out of a season of isolation. Yup. Yup. And the crazy thing about being misunderstood is that people don't celebrate your process, but then they want to come and rally around your results. They won't celebrate the isolation. They'll talk about you, they'll judge you, they'll do whatever. But the moment you achieve that thing of success, here they come with their pom poms, acting like they were in the trenches with you. But that's okay, because I believe one of the reasons why we're here this week is because he's given us a community of world changers, of uncommon people doing uncommon things in uncommon ways. And so when you think about how do I dream high enough? What does it take to dream high enough? One, you have to be willing to have higher and uncommon thoughts. Higher and uncommon thoughts. So when I say that, that means when you have a thought that is of an older version of you, that is of an inferior version of you, that doesn't bring forth those childlike guts, you got to throw that thought away and replace it with a new thought. So sometimes it means that you may have to have a set of affirmations or a set of scriptures that you have read to yourself and you play it on repeat. Because if we go back to Monday, if you haven't watched Monday, go back to Monday. The enemy comes to steal our belief through what he's saying to us in our mind, through people and ourselves. He comes to kill our momentum, to destroy our promise. And so if we can have the right thought life that's higher and uncommon, we can defeat his entire plan from our thoughts. Right? So then if we're going higher and we're living this uncommon life, that means we have to have higher and uncommon habits. Somebody needs to type in the chat right now, goodbye, old me. Somebody needs to type in the chat right now, goodbye, old me. Because you require a newer you for uncommon and higher. You require a new you for uncommon and higher. And we don't talk enough about this. And people get so riled up for the empowerment. They get so riled up for the change and then want to sit down when it's time to actually do it. Want to sit down when you have to put in some long nights. Want to sit down when you have to strive to a greater level of discipline. One of my mentors recently said to me, he was like, Jamila, at every level of your life, you're going to have to fight. And the fight is for you to go to a higher level of discipline. And people who know me, like, how much more disciplined can I be? Like I am really disciplined, but I have something uncommon on my life. You have something uncommon on your life. So there's higher waiting for you, but that means you have to be willing to let go of the things that were okay in one season, but you won't be graced for in the next season. And then this the part right here. When you're going higher and things are uncommon, you have to get around higher and uncommon people. You have to, because you have to be able to fly with eagles. They always say, like, pigeons don't fly high with eagles. That's true. However, we also have to really like deal with the grief of that. When you go higher, when you chase uncommon, there is a grief that comes, because when you have higher thoughts, you start to recognize that level that you were thinking on wasn't doing anything for you, or it can't do anything for you at this level. And these are the things that if we don't put this in place, our businesses don't go to the level that we want them to, or even that they were designed or created to. Our lives don't go to the level. The people that we're called to impact don't get that best version that they're supposed to get, because, to be honest, we didn't count the cost. And higher and uncommon costs. It costs you people, it costs you experiences, it costs you sleep, It costs you maybe even some physical pain because when you start working out with the right people. But one of my mentors said this. He said, you have to be willing to drop everything and be flexible. And so, at a place of higher, at a place of uncommonality, it's really about how flexible you can be and how much you can let go of. And this is the time where your discernment has to be on 30. And your discernment has to be on 30 because you have to discern, like, even how to navigate the intricacies of that flexibility, of letting something go, of telling people no, of putting up a new boundary, right? Of having to walk away from some things that you thought that you would have forever, whether that's a person, a place, or an experience. Because I know you would have never told me I would be experiencing the cold again in life. And so we have about like 4 minutes as we think about like this uncommonality, dreaming higher. What questions or thoughts come to mind? And if you're just coming in, I want you to type in the chat, "An uncommon life is on the way." And I want you to tell yourself, "Goodbye, old me." I feel like one of them old songs coming up in me, and then like I'll wait and then the question come like soon as I get ready to pray. Um, yeah. So, what's one thing that you are going to commit to this week to get to that higher level of you, to dream higher, and to get to that uncommon life? And how are you going to write it down, cross it out, and then meditate on it to allow even greater to come in and to fill that space? Because the Bible tells us like his ways are not our ways, his thoughts are not our thoughts. But then we get sold to our plan and our way and then face disappointment when it doesn't go that way. But dreaming higher means dreaming godlike with that level of creativity. And if we go back to last night, when we create a construction zone that then has to be managed. So, how did you move past when you were going after the vision God gave you? Um, I think the thing for me is I am really scared to disobey God. Like if I know that I know that I know that he said something to me, I am going to go back to that childlike fear, like that childlike gutlessness that I used to have. And I am going to do the thing that he told me to do. During those seasons, I am very careful about who I talk to about things because there are certain people in my family that will literally say something that's the total opposite. So let's just say when it was time for me to walk off my job, right? That's a high dream. That's an uncommon life. And the one person who should have been the biggest supporter said, "I hope you didn't mess up your entire life." Whoa. Whoa. Can you imagine like I just mustered up the gut. So one, I had to be very careful of people. Two, I had to go to a level of preparation. I had been reading a book called Crazy Faith, and I had read a book called The Shift. And so those things kind of prepared me. And then the third thing is I trust God enough to know that like there's a plan and there's a provision for me that I may not see right now, but I know it's on the way. But if I'm honest, if I could go back and do it again, now that I am a more mature version of myself, I would have counted the cost differently. Right. So maybe I would have stayed on my job maybe an extra month just to have pay stubs to move out of the place that I was in and like dig all in the dream. Like I did it, but I did it scared. And last night I told y'all the biggest thing that I learned around the time that I've been given to rest. Because if you do entrepreneurship right, there's a level of rest that comes with it and a level of non-hustle that you don't have to do that you have to do when you work for someone else. if I could do it all over again, I would have managed this season differently because I'll never get this time back. I'll never get these opportunities of rest back. But I was moving out of fear of what could not be. I was moving out of a lack mindset, not understanding that I have every single thing that I need. And it's a matter of me becoming aware of it and finding the places, the resources, and the people to bring it in. So I know that was a long answer, but that's how I moved past going after my vision. It wasn't even my vision because I like safety, but I'm the one that's going to move from safe and make the next jump to go after more. So, what has helped me to remain flexible to know when and how to get to the next uncommon thing? Ooh, that's good. I think listening to maybe audibles and then also a lot of YouTube. Because if you look at all of the people who have uncommon results, the people who have these crazy dreams, they all had to become flexible at some point and they just walked away from things. So right now I am reading the 4 Hour Work Week. And in the 4 Hour Work Week, he talks about how he had to write down this crazy idea. So he wrote down the crazy idea, he drew a line down the page, and on one side, he put all of the ways it could go right. And then on the other side, he put the few things that could go wrong. And then he like started to think through the likelihood of something going really wrong. And he said, so he like abandoned everything and went on a backpack trip to Europe, and his business still was sustainable and made him money, and that trip changed his entire life. And so for me, I think I've probably done that for a long period of time, just not knowing that's what I was doing. But then the thing that I would coach myself on now would be moving past that fear base. So now it's just like I have everything I need. I'm good. I'm gonna make it. Um, I just need to figure out all of these different pieces in terms of having my mind wrapped tight. So the best thing you could do when you're being flexible, when you're going for higher, when you're moving to that uncommon life, is wrapping your mind right. Sometimes I can't pick up the phone with certain people because I just don't know what you're gonna say. Family, friend, whatever it is. Because if you're gonna say something crazy, I can't manage that right now. Here is another question. Then I gotta roll because I gotta go to the gym. See, uncommon ways. I'm usually not even up at this time, if I'm honest. How did you make it financially when you quit your job and before your business took off? I think that's one thing that scares me a little. That's a really, really great question. I at some point had a very I had done a lot of homework around finance things, and I'm still continuing to do more homework. So I had investments in stocks. I had a pretty hefty savings account, and I had already started working in the business. So it wasn't something that I didn't know if income was going to come in. It was just a matter of the income coming in because I knew I had something that was proven. I had done my homework to know marketing. I didn't know a lot about sales, but then I did my homework to learn more about sales. And so, if I were to coach someone who was thinking about quitting their business, one thing I would tell them is to calculate their expenses each month and then figure out where they can start cutting expenses. So, to get yourself to a really lean place so that you can make the right business budget to then bring in the money to replace some of the income that you may not be able to get initially. Two, you have to make sure you have a proven market solution, right? And something that the market is going to need. And the third thing I would say is know your data, because when you know your data, you will be able to kind of like think through and know where you need to place your marketing efforts to be able to draw in new people all the time. Because unless you are one of those bigger brands, when you are building a brand, it takes a while for people to know, like, and trust you. And it takes you showing up in a different way in order for you to prove that you are trustworthy, right? So sometimes you can borrow people's platforms. Sometimes you can go into the right networking situations and get it, but those are things you really have to have locked in. And for those of you that may be like, oh, I want to know more, make sure you just head over to imandmore.com, and then you could sign up for I literally have courses and classes on all of these things. Because this is the thing that gets you to a new level of freedom. And while some of us are supposed to work 9 to 5s, many of us are called to be entrepreneurs and to walk in a different level of purpose and to walk in a different level of freedom. And for that reason, this is why I show up, right? And this is why I'm always fine tuning my messaging so that people can know, like, I am the person you should start with when you're starting your business. And it's a reality. I have been in communities across this nation, and the way that I teach the skills that I teach to make you have understanding, you don't get that. And you end up at a place where you may make even higher investments, but you operate under false failure because you think that you don't have the right business model, but in reality, you don't even know the right business principles. And so when you're starting a business, it is not about just the purpose and the passion and all the things you want to do. No, it's about you becoming a CEO and understanding how business is run. So y'all, we are getting ready to live an uncommon life. If you would like to see more things like this, just put a one in the chat. Put a one in the chat. And I will figure out my schedule to see how I can come back and do some of these. And then shoot me a DM or a message and just let me know, like, meet us in the morning, meet us in the evening. Like, let me know, right? Because I myself, I'm going to abandon the old version of me, because it's time for me to actually make sure I'm in place to catch the people that I'm supposed to catch, because higher is waiting and an uncommon life is waiting. Let's pray over our weekend. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for meeting us here on this Friday, the 3rd of May, God. We thank you that our lives will never be the same. We thank you that we will forever, ever, ever be changed, God. We thank you for sending in, God, resources, God, financially, God, network wise, God. We thank you that our calendars will start to be built, God. We thank you for building us up differently to have the capacity to count the cost, to actually work in purpose and do all the things that we're supposed to do. God, I disconnect us from any illegal connections, God, any negative words, any seeds planted in our heart and in our mind that we're never supposed to be, God, so that we can turn back to that childlike gutlessness and do everything that we were designed to do. God, cleanse us, rearrange us, dear God, and help us to really operate in operation for your glory. God, we thank you that you are going to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we could ever ask or think, and that now is the time for the Ephesians 3:20 life. So we just say thank you and we praise you in Jesus' name. Y'all, it's been good. It is done. It is so. And I guess I'll see y'all next week. See you soon.